Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living this morning. I will be reading the thought for the week, and if you can join me as you're in the room here down at the bottom at the end where it's in the bolded area, I appreciate that. In order to have the pure sense of freedom, we must be diligent in refraining from attachments of any kind. That means we avoid strong emotions about a thing. Rather than having to have something go a particular way, we take on the attitude that it's okay if it happens and it's okay if it doesn't. We can enjoy a thing, but we don't need it for our happiness. This is in alignment with the teachings of the Buddha as well as Jesus Christ, to be in the world but not of it. Detachment, surrender, or letting go brings a newfound sense of lightness. We can certainly be aware of our feelings and emotions, allowing them to rise and be experienced, and yet not attaching to them. Like the ocean creates wave after wave that come and go, so too we, as the ocean, can experience the emotion of the wave and then let it go. We become anchored in the awareness of observing the experience without being pulled into its energy. Life can bring us devastating experiences that can rock us to the core. All of us have had these types of life events, and it is up to each individual as to how we will respond. Life events are opportunities to grow, expand, experience, and develop. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung concluded, after a lifetime of study, that there is an inborn drive in the unconscious toward wholeness, completeness, and the realization of the self, with a capital S, and that the unconscious will devise the ways and means of bringing this about, even if they are traumatic to the conscious mind. Remember Joseph telling his brothers in Genesis 50:20, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Emma Curtis Hopkins, the New Thought spiritual teacher, was quoted as saying, "This too is God, this too is good, and I demand to see the good in it now." Let's remember to be continually open to allowing life's events to grow, expand, and develop us to higher levels of consciousness. Say with me, there is a calm assurance that envelops me as I detach from the required expectations and open my heart and mind to the goodness the divine presence has in store for me this day. Michael Singer's perpetual calendar message this morning read, "Reality is just too real for most of us, so we temper it with the mind." What do you think that means? Reality is just too real. The synonyms for real are true, honest, and actual. Why would we want to temper that? How do we temper that with our mind? Our message this morning is attachment versus detachment. And I think that that brings us to another avenue as we've been experiencing this whole month through our theme, which is that of freedom. Reality is, with a capital R, truth. It is honest. It is actual. It is God's loving presence in and through everything, this energy that is unending. Why would we want to stifle that? Why would our minds want to think up all sorts of ways to disconnect from reality, from truth, from honesty? We cannot accept how good things really are. And so our mind starts spinning around, thinking that we have to be in control, that we have to make up what's going on. And yet this love, this energy that is in and through all, keeps beckoning us to not disconnect, to stay out of the mind and come back to the heart, to come back to the truth of what we are. And there's nothing wrong with us when we think about what we want in life, our desires. We talked about this last week. My thought is that a desire is something of the Father. But when we let our desires be run by our egoic self, by that limited self, we're trying to feed ourselves with something that is insatiable. We cannot be fed from what the ego or the mind wants to tell us that we need. And so we want to be fed from this eternal flowing of the divine from within. But we are always a choice. We get to choose how we are going to allow or not this love to express through us. We get to choose if we are going to trust and know that this life that I am living is the life of the divine, and I am going to step aside from my personal, separate self and be open and available for letting it to flow through me. John 15, verses 4 and 5 read, "Remain with me and I with you. Just as a branch cannot give fruit by itself unless it remains in the vine, even so you cannot unless you remain with me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who remains with me and I with him will bear abundant fruit, for without me you can do nothing." Jesus goes on to say, "I have spoken these things to you that my joy may be in you and your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you." The bottom line is that it's all about love. That this endless essence and energy of the divine is all about love. And it is up to us to have a single eye, to see that with the eyes of love, with that truth of love, to feel it in our bones. There was a song that I used to sing as I was growing up in Methodist church many years ago. And it spoke to me deeply, and it still does. "Open my eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Place in my hands the wonderful key that shall unclasp and set me free. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine." We are the branch that needs to be attached to the vine, to the life-flowing energy. We can cut ourselves off from it with a thought, with a snap, or we can allow ourselves to remain open to it. I hope that we are continuing to say our welcoming prayer every day. I welcome everything that comes to me today because I know it is for my healing. It is an abiding confidence when we set ourselves in the midst of knowing that this love energy is flowing through us unrestricted. It's almost like a bring it on. The I within me, this vine within me, can handle it, can take it. can be revealed through whatever the mess might look like on the surface. Because remember, it is the Father within, the Creator within, the love within that is doing the work through us. In the middle of that welcoming prayer are all of those sentences about, I let go of my desire for power and control. I let go of my desire for affection, esteem, approval, and pleasure. I let go of my desire for survival and security, and I let go of my desire to change any situation, condition, person, or myself. All of that is coming from the separate ego sense, and we absolutely want to let that go so that we are available, open and receptive for the newness, for the openness, for the joy that this loving life wants to give us. The prayer ends with, I open to the love and presence of God and God's action. And what is God? God is love. Love brings us peace. Love brings us freedom. Love brings us joy. And it is our part to let it happen. To be open and receptive and available to what is happening now. Just like I said in the thought for the week, we are the ocean. We have this depth within us. And yes, there are waves that are going to come on the surface. They're going to come and they're going to go. But that doesn't mean that we have to be caught up in a tidal wave. That there is something stronger, more evident, more real within us and all around us when we open our eyes to it. Phil Bosta wrote, know that in the deepest part of uncomfortable circumstances stands the pathway to self-awareness and personal power. In the deepest part of uncomfortable circumstances, there is within us a self-awareness, a personal power. This is a personal God energy level of awareness that is within each of us. Alan Cohen wrote, everything will change when your desire to move on exceeds your desire to hold on. We are talking about letting go of attachments, even good ones, to surrender to what the moment had been in the past and be available to detach from the egoic expectations of our mind so that this loving energy has freedom to act within us, to be our lives, to surprise us with some amazing, amazing, miraculous events that only this loving energy can do. I want you to remember that this life of ours, each and every one of ours, is the life of God. It's the life of love. It's the life of energy that is infinite and unlimited. And when we can focus our attention and see that love in each other, we are bringing forth the commandment that Jesus told us to do, to love our neighbor as ourselves, to love the being that we are so much that we are steeped in that love. And that's all that our eye can see, is that single eye of love. Keep going with that knowledge. Keep going with that reality, that love is ever for me, that love is beckoning me to go forward, to leave the past behind, to ride that new wave, to hang 10, to put it out there, to trust that the love that I am will always support, will always guide me. To know that you are not alone. For we are anchored in this vine of the divine. And wherever we go, wherever we are, whatever our circumstances, as we open to the love, it will smile upon us. It will lead us. It will guide us. Now I ask you to go in peace and in love and being a beautiful blessing to the world around you this day. Namaste.